All right, stand by, stand by.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
I love those guys to death. Grayson and Joey and Kmart. And Joel, I mean, those are the guys off the top of my head that I think will probably have an opportunity to sign professionally. And they're great kids. They've been here and they gave us all that. They're baseball rats.
Eventually, they'll score some runs, and if I keep on doing my job, then, like I said, we'll score runs and we'll get some wins.
Yeah, get the Braves some runs because they're having a hard time getting it done offensively. Mike Minor not happy with the lack of run support as the Braves fall to Seattle. I think the Braves have not beaten a team in interleague play so far this year as they lose again to Seattle this afternoon, 2-0. Chad Holbrook talking about losing players. The draft comes up tomorrow. We'll be talking more about that tonight here on Sports Talk. We're going to talk football as well. Clemson gets another big commitment today. Cleland Farrell, defensive end from Richmond, Virginia. Another highly touted prize prospect, about 6'5", 260, commits to the Tigers. That's number 18 for Clemson. And second defensive end within the last few days, LaSamuel Davis from Bamberg Earhart committing on Saturday. We'll talk more about that on the program tonight as well. And Stephon Gilmore, former Gamecock, current Bill, will join us in just a few minutes. He's got an engagement in Columbia coming up this weekend, and chat with him about that and how he feels about having another Tiger joining his roster with Sammy Watkins and C.J. Spiller now double-teaming him. 2 against 1 from that standpoint of the rivalry, USC and Clemson. So we've got a lot to do here on the program tonight. Good to have you with us. It's Phil Kornblut along with Kevin McCrary. That's the Professor Tom Hayes over there for those of you watching the live video stream in HD. Your screen is not cloudy or anything. It is 95 degrees, and Pro is wearing a jacket. So there's nothing wrong with your television screen. Do not attempt to adjust your set. And the state man, Graham Pope, behind the bulletproof glass once again tonight. So Pro, the quarterback out in San Francisco, cashed in big time today.
Colin Kaepernick. That's why I keep telling guys who say, well, you know, if he'd have stayed in school, he'd have been the #1 pick. No, the big pick is if you play hard enough, gain traction. That second contract is the big one. And here's the only few words you have to remember. $61 million guaranteed.
That'll pay for a lot of future Kaepernicks. K-Mac, George Rogers getting a statue of himself built in the new plaza area at Williams-Brice. Good idea. I mean, there's some people who feel like you shouldn't build a statue to somebody until that person is dead.
Yeah, but in this day and age, you know, at Auburn, they already have one of Cam Newton. They already have one of Tim Tebow outside of the swamp. In this day and age, they lionize people while they're still alive, and especially in the SEC. And South Carolina has done a poor job of honoring its past in the past, and that's something they've been working on over the years and continuing to do that. So I think it's a good thing.
Should they do something different? Should this be more of an action-type statue or just one of those straight-up-and-down deals? We'll talk about that coming up.
I mean, Joe Paterno's already got a statue. I mean, whoops. But I may. Put it on Twitter. We got a particular time. He is 6:15-ish. Okay. Somebody looking for one of the affiliates for what is it called? iHeartRadio. It's a hell of an app. Wow. Oh, you're the worst. What team are you affiliated with again? Quite the pattern there, huh? Stand by.
We're so happy to have you with us on Sports Talk, your final word in sports across the states. Every night. It's been that way for 30 years. Your most informed word, your most intelligent word in sports in South Carolina each and every night, 6:06 to 8. Not enough time to get it all in on a daily basis. We do the best we can to squeeze it in. And we'll do that again tonight for you. Got a lot of good stuff coming your way. Sammy Esposito, USC recruiting coordinator for baseball, will join us a little bit after 7 o'clock. The draft comes up tomorrow. South Carolina, Clemson, other schools around the state. Going to lose some players, going to lose some veterans, going to lose some high school players. We'll talk with him about that. Nothing new from Clemson today as the Jack Leggett watch, I guess, is on. I believe today is the day that he was to meet with Dan Radakovich. From one source I talked to today who would have some knowledge of this, did not expect anything drastic to come out of this as far as a change in the head coaching position, from what I was told. So, and there's been no news to indicate anything like that to this point. So the watch continues, and I'm sure at some point they will post at ClemsonTigers.com a release about what Dan Radakovich, and Jack Leggett talked about.
Well, isn't this
because they don't put the word out to anybody anymore? They just post it at ClemsonTigers.com because they want everybody to go to their own website to get all Clemson
is that
news
what it
now.
is?
Yeah.
Well, I don't care where you get the news. Isn't this an either-or situation? In my opinion, if you left Jack hanging out to dry, now if you decide to keep him, not only do you decide to keep him, but you put out something out there that assure people that Jack is on a strong foundation and give him a year, 2-year extension.
Yeah, I think so. I think that'd be a good thing to do, but we'll see what comes of all that. We have got plenty to get into. We mentioned the commitment of Cleveland Farrell to Clemson today. We'll talk more about that coming up. Complete recruiting report coming up as well. We're going to chat right now with somebody who used to be a mainstay of our Sports Talk recruiting report. How many times did we have an update on Stephon Gilmore when he was coming out of South Point High School, eventually going to USC, and now with the Buffalo Bills, and he joins us. Good evening, Stephon. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
We're doing fine. It's good to have you with us once again. How are things going?
Everything going good. Just down in Buffalo, just practicing and working hard and taking it easy.
Well, that's what we've come to learn from you. But you're coming down south. You're coming to South Carolina. You're coming to Columbia this weekend for a public appearance, correct?
Yes, I'm coming down to meet some fans and show my face and enjoy some fans this weekend.
Exactly where you're going to be and when you're going to be there.
I'm going to be at the Garnet and Black in Casey. I'm going to be there probably from 11 to probably 2 or 3 o'clock, signing autographs and signing Gamecock stuff and Buffalo Bills stuff.
That's great. Is this the first time you've done something like this back in South Carolina, back in the Columbia area?
Yeah, this is my first time actually coming back and showing my face to Gamecock fans in Columbia. It's going to be a great experience.
Absolutely. Do you still enjoy getting out and meeting with the fans and exchanging stories and hearing from them and just reaching out to both the Buffalo fans and still the Gamecock fans?
Of course, I always enjoy doing stuff like that because one of the reasons why I chose to go to the University of South Carolina is because of the fans and how I thought the fans liked me, and even when I first walked on campus. So I'm just looking forward to going back and showing them that I appreciate them.
Well, you're one of those guys that Spurrier likes to point to when people bring up the turn in the Gamecock football fortunes. And he cites you and Devontae Holloman, of course, Marcus Lattimore as well. How does it feel to know that you were part of what has become the greatest period of time in Gamecock football history as far as getting it started?
It feels good, but like I said, I was one of the first guys that actually committed to the University of South Carolina that was a top player, and it took a lot of help. I mean, I had a lot of great players around me, and a lot of great players came after me. So I think we turned that program around.
Now, you definitely did that. I hate to bring up old recruiting war stories, but if Tommy Bowden had not been let go at Clemson, would you have stuck? Would you and Devontae, would y'all have stuck with your commitments to Clemson, or would you still eventually have changed?
Well, I never committed to Clemson. I know Devontae committed to Clemson, and I knew I was going to commit to South Carolina, and I was just trying to get Devontae to come with me from Clemson, and he ended up making that decision to come with me to the University of South Carolina.
Speaking of Clemson, you know, up in Buffalo, they're calling that Clemson North now with all the Clemson Tigers. We know Sammy Watkins is up there now. I know you got to be excited about that. But are you starting to feel a little invaded there with all the orange in the locker room there in Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, they always wearing their Clemson gear and orange book bags, and I always tell them to just take it off. And I wear my Gamecock hat sometimes, and I tell them to put it on. We always kid about the rivalry. We just enjoy it.
How is it in Buffalo now as far as I know the fans, it's a close-knit community as far as that football team is concerned, but you lost your icon and Ralph Wilson, the owner. They're talking about selling the franchise. Do you feel that the Bills are on stable ground right now?
Actually, I really don't know too much about it. Yeah, I heard some stories, but as a player, you just play football and do whatever you can to turn this franchise around and start winning games like Buffalo used to be. So I think that's our main goal right now.
Visiting with Stephon Gilmore, former USC star with the Buffalo Bills. So when you guys crank up practice and you're faced man-to-man with Sammy, what are you going to teach him?
just teach them how Gamecock plays. I mean, that's the way. That's how I've been playing ever since I stepped foot in college, and since I'm in the league, that's how I've been playing. I'm gonna just play hard. We'll get each other better and go from there.
How have you changed since your college days as a defender? How much better are you? What tricks have you learned in the NFL that you use now as part of your arsenal defensively?
I learned a lot. I mean, even when I think I went to a Gamecock game on my bye week last year, I was on the field, and the game just seemed so much slower now. And it's like, what if I was playing at the high level that I'm playing now in college? It'd be a whole different story. But I learned a lot of formation recognition and technique and the mental part of the game. I learned a lot, and I think it helped my game out so far.
Stefan, let's take us behind the scenes a little bit. Who's the toughest guy that you've had to face in terms of a guard in the NFL?
I would say probably Antonio Brown for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He probably was the best receiver I've guarded so far since I've been playing in the league.
Now you've had some injury issues early in your career. How are you feeling now? Are you completely past the various injuries that you've had?
Yeah, I'm pretty healthy right now. I actually had my first injury ever this past year in the preseason game. I broke my wrist, but I'm back. My wrist back 100%, and I'm feeling good and ready to go.
Well, a lot of people down south, we're getting that humidity now as summer kicks in. How's the guy from Rock Hill handle when it gets chilly in Buffalo? How have you been able to deal with that?
Yeah, I had to get used to it early. It gets pretty cold in Buffalo. I wasn't used to snow and driving in snow, but I really had to adjust pretty well, and now I think I'm used to it. It don't bother me now. We have heated benches. We mostly focus on football when we out there on the field, but it's a great experience, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, we wish you the best this coming season. Everybody will be watching you and Sammy and CJ very closely, and enjoy your day back in the Midlands on Saturday. I'm sure hundreds of Gamecock fans will turn out, and we thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for having me.
You got it, man. Stefan Gilmore from USC and South Point joining us tonight here on Sports Talk, and we'll be right back. right, thanks to Stephon Gilmore for joining us here on the program. I went back and looked through some of my stories from his high school days, and he's right. I don't know why I thought he and Holloman committed to Clemson. Maybe Gilmore was just very close, and when Holloman committed, it appeared like he was going to go to Clemson. Holloman committed to Clemson on May the 12th, 2008. And then I guess it must have been, was it 2009 when Tommy Bowden was, Bowden was let go 2009, and that's when Holloman backed off, and maybe that sort of affected Gilmore's thinking, though he had not totally committed in any fashion to Clemson at that time. So for some reason that was in my head, but it wasn't. I appreciate him setting me straight on that.
Well, I'll tell you what, the most important thing, and I hope some youngsters out there was listening, when Gilmore said when he came back to South Carolina how much slower the game was compared to what he has to face on Sunday. He said it's almost like night and day.
Now, in our Learfield studios here in downtown Columbia, we have welcomed in another former Gamecock star and another former, Stephon's still in the league. This is a former NFL standout, Langston Moore, who's also a broadcaster with the Gamecocks doing the sidelines of the football games. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, and I hate you guys put me in this position. Y'all can't have me come on after Gilmore. Nobody wants to hear what I'm talking about. That's the guy right there. That's the man.
He is pretty good, isn't he?
Absolutely. That's makes us very proud to see him out there doing his thing, and just how he just carries himself. It just exemplifies what we want to come across here at the university.
Yeah, we'll talk about what you have coming up after the bottom of the hour break, but I want to dive in with you a little bit more about when Stephon and that crowd, Holloman, Lattimore, when they all arrived on campus, and how everything sort of turned in the direction that's been very positive, in the direction it's moving now. And you've seen it up close and personal.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys, I remember the day when Stephon kind of committed. I was, one, thankful that he didn't go to Alabama or to the other school up the state that likes to wear those purple pants. But it was just you hit it right on the head. He's just a guy that kind of shifted not just the athletic prowess that we're trying to get those top tier guys from the Charlotte area, but it just kind of started the ball for rolling for us to really target that area, to get that area and start kind of owning the Charlotte area. So, and on top of that, he's just a great kid and just a professional. You can kind of see how he was carrying himself even at a young age, but very humble and always about his teammates. But they really started the impetus of all that stuff to really get it going out there and getting the program where it is right now.
And he's a real quiet guy, too. Yeah. I mean, I think that's maybe the most I've ever heard from him in an interview. You can tell he's getting older and used to it, but he's always been kind of a quiet,
very reserved,
individual.
Yeah, absolutely. He comes from a great family, and it's one of those guys you just love because he comes, he's so highly touted. He does a lot of great things. But he's lets his play speak for him. He's not very boastful, but I think that also bodes well for him on the football field because, playing the corner, you got to be, have a calm, short memory.
Also, these players they're bringing in, you talk about Stephon, obviously with Twitter it makes it easier, but it also seems that these players have a greater field of influence on other guys and bringing them into the fold.
Yeah, and bringing guys that are like-minded, that work hard. Just even from yesterday, the young man that committed, first thing he said is, I'm going after so-and-so right here in Georgia. And that's what you love. You want those guys to want to stand up and be proud, say they're Gamecocks, and we want more guys like that here.
All right, Langston Moore, hang on. We're going to come back with you. You got a big event coming up. The Eat to Win camp is coming up. We'll get details on that in a moment. right, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, on a Wednesday night from downtown Columbia. Langston Moore visiting with us here in studio. We talked with Stephon Gilmore a little while ago. Langston, former USC defensive lineman, Cincinnati, with Detroit, with Arizona.
Whoever was losing, pretty much. I guarantee
With
you get me on
Seattle.
your team, we'll lose. But the next year, once you cut me, they'll win. I
I've heard
guarantee
some
you.
people
I
say
guarantee you.
that the turnaround with the Seattle defense coincided with when you were out there, and it's just continued since then.
I wish. Those guys out there, man. They play at such a high level, but just any time in the NFL, I just feel so blessed to even have the opportunity to play out there. It was so fun, and I mean, guys like Nashawn Goddard have been out there. Of course, we got Sydney out there, all those guys. So it's just a tremendous thing and an honor just to be kind of woven into the fabric of what Carolina has become now.
They say the 12th man in Seattle, the loudest stadium, best fans. Now, how would you compare that atmosphere to Williams-Brice Stadium for a big matchup?
Well, I tell folks, when I played a majority of the time, we had to play them a couple times a year when I was with Arizona. It was probably the closest that could emulate an SEC stadium, closest to Williams-Brice, just because they're just so. It's just, you get some kind of some of these NFL teams, they seem kind of snooty until the 2-minute drill. That's when the fans want to start getting engaged. But it's one of those deals. I think that's probably the most exciting, fun, because the fans are really into it. They've done a tremendous job with the facilities out there because they allow the fans to have some kind of suites there in the end zone, so you get to hear some trash talk with the guys. And Paul Allen's done a great job with that organization, just everything from the top to the bottom. They're first class, so it's no wonder Seattle's done such great things out there.
All right, let's talk about some great things you're doing here in South Carolina and in the Midlands area coming up June 10th at Charlie Johnson Stadium over at Benedict College from 9 to 3. You've got your second annual Eat to Win football fundamental camp and health combine.
Health combine, yeah. Well, we try to play on the name a little bit. Eat to Win is kind of an acronym that's thrown around in the football world. EAT stands for effort, attitude, and technique, and win, of course, is the phrase that Lou Holtz kind of coined, what's important now. And those are a lot of things in myself and my life personally, on and off the field, that's kind of carried me, just compartmentalizing things, helping me. So we really try to take that and play on the nutrition part, because, of course, with some work I do in the State House, we all know the I-95 corridor in South Carolina tops in the nation for obesity, diabetes, and all those related illnesses. Even where we're having the camp at the Charlie Johnson Stadium, it's number one in the country for amputees because of obesity and diabetes related illnesses. So
really,
to have it there and then talk about the focus of having Earth Fair there, usually most of the camps we try to work chili dogs and popsicles, and that's fun, but we don't want to convey that message to the kids. So that's why we have Earth Fair come out, we have PDQ come out. We give the kids an organic lunch. It's all grown locally. It's all cooked fresh there for the kids, low sugar. We don't serve any Gatorade and stuff like that. So we try to go above and beyond, because I tell kids all the time, you might see LeBron on TV eating hamburgers, but I guarantee he's not doing that. He's got a cold pressed juice place, and it just plays eating and living a healthy lifestyle, period. It can have such a beneficial impact on your family and your personal life, just overall. So we try to incorporate so many different things into the camp.
Interesting that you mentioned you don't give them Gatorade, which I'm sure at all camps Gatorade is prevalent, and that's what the kids want. So what do you substitute from a thirst quenching standpoint for Gatorade?
Our biggest thing is we try to push the hydration before when the kids first get there. Of course, a lot of the waters we tried last year to use all the high filtered waters, but the kids at the end, they don't care. We just get it out the spigot now. But we also use a lot of products that are low in sugar. There's a nice product that Earth Fair provides that is kind of a all natural fruit mixed drink that we mix up. Of course, we supplement a lot of the electrolyte stuff with the fruit. We give away a lot of different we have a smoothie station where we show kids how you can make a green smoothie with kale and some different things and some fruit. It looks crazy, but it tastes great. So it's just another resource for the kids on how to figure out, instead of living out of the grocery store, out of the corner store, eating chips and candy all summer, maybe you can do a few other things.
Do you pass on any information for them to take back to the parents as well?
Absolutely, and that's why we offer the parents the opportunity to come get free health screenings from Palmetto Health, because we found being all across the country and doing different things, kids will listen to us and the parents will come out there, but the parents were just standing there on the sideline, not engaged. So we always wanted to make sure that we gave something and had that teachable moment to teach the parents, hey, all right, maybe you're working so many days out of the week and you're frying chicken here, but maybe you can go here on Earth Fair night and have healthy organic meal. Like they have their family night where you can feed 6 kids for $6.99, and that's a great resource that plenty of people don't know about. So it's just really about giving them the information and use it, because we all know the top-down model of information transformation is kind of out. The parents are only going to teach you what they know. So we try to encourage the kids to learn something new, but hold the parents accountable once they leave there, so they can go on. At least if they just take one or two things from the camp, they can maybe change their household.
Visiting with Langston Moore, former Gamecock, former NFL standout. The phone number for more information is area code 803-586-6796. You can email at the following address, eattowincamp@gmail.com, and the website is eattowincamp.eventbrite.com. $35 pre-registration, $40 day of camp. Who are some of the other counselors you'll have on hand?
We'll try to pull a big contingent of the Carolina guys, Clemson guys. We'll have Travell Wharton, Troy Williamson, Sean Smith flying in. If you go to our website, I'm sorry if I miss anybody, but we'll have about 30 to 40 guys show up, and then hopefully I can pull a few more guys here locally. If anybody sees Ryan Brewer out there, tell him call me. I'm trying to find him if he's not too busy.
I see him running around.
Yeah, I saw him.
No, I'm just giving him a hard time, because Brewer,
game.
he acts like, man, I don't want to come out there. I was like, these kids need to see you. But Brewer's a great kid. He comes out there and he engages us. He's just doing so many things with his own family, his business. So, but we have tremendous support. Kim Reed, just tons and tons of folks just come out and support us. It does my heart good that all of these guys come back out here, because there is a strong contention of guys who have played pro ball or played college ball here that live in this community and want to be active. So we use this as an opportunity for them to serve.
All right, let me ask you about the upcoming season for South Carolina now, the era after Clowney. I guess this is AC for USC after Clowney. Sometimes
you better you better trademark that before.
Absolutely. But sometimes we see when a great player leaves, those who are left behind, they rise up, and as a unit, they're even better than they were with the individual great player. Could you see that with USC's defense as they also kind of make that move towards a 3-4?
I think you took the words right out of my mouth, especially from the defensive line standpoint. A lot of folks have been talking about, that kind of shift of us playing a kind of that 3-4 hybrid look. I think we have tremendous experience. We had a lot of young guys that played early on at Carolina, but I think for them to kind of have their own, they're going to be not guaranteed, but have the opportunity to have, a majority of the snaps. Darius English, of course, our young transfer Abu coming in, all those guys. I'm just excited for them, because it kind of reminds me of my first year after Cleveland Pinckney kind of left. After those guys left, we didn't have really a clear cut starter, but we had a strong contention of 8 guys who could play the position very well. And of course, we're looking pretty good on the offensive side. We're probably the best offensive line in the country. Obviously, if knock on wood, if guys stay healthy, and of course the Coach Elliott keeps working those guys like we know he will, we have an opportunity to obviously have the best line we've ever had here collectively at South Carolina. So, it's just so exciting. But I like how we're still kind of under the radar. Still, folks are still kind of doubting us. So that's Coach Spurrier use all
hard
that
to be
stuff.
under the radar when you're ranked 4th in the country.
No,
at the end of last year.
Absolutely. But still, people will talk about Clowney leaving. They'll talk about Connor Shaw leaving. Of course, Bruce. I mean, that was a big. They were a big part of what we did. But we still have a slew of talent. So, and guys have played young and they know how to win. So that's important.
You talked about the guys playing in the moment, and I guess the front line and the linebackers still only sophomores, but you can tell them they grew throughout the season. They know it's important right now to be strong initially, because they're going to have some freshmen in the secondary, no doubt about it.
And it's funny what a difference a year makes. I mean, this time last year we were talking about, how are we going to make it through with this linebacking core, of course. And of course, we wouldn't know how it played out till now, but that's going to be our strong point now. Those are the guys even though they're a younger group of guys, they play together collectively. They've obviously had individual success together, and Coach B keeps those guys on par with what they need to do for the team. So we really look for them to try to be kind of the bell cows, even though they are young. But still, again, we have a lot of younger guys that have experience that should be able to step and grow into certain roles and take that leadership role, because again, you could look at the sideline and say, Seven, come and save me, but he's not there anymore. So these guys know they have to step it up and make a play themselves.
Always good seeing you. Good luck with your camp, June 10th.
I appreciate you guys so much. And Phil, I wouldn't be here at South Carolina if you didn't help me with that recruiting. Added a few tackles here and there. I'll never forget the first time I ever met you at James Island. It's great to come full circle kind of here.
You did it all yourself. We just tried to get the word out. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you, brother.
We appreciate it. Langston Moore here in the studio with us. All right, thanks to Langston Moore for being with us here on Sports Talk tonight here in the studio. Now let's shift gears and go to our Atlanta Braves report with Mike Morgan. It was a afternoon game for the Braves today, businessman special. Mike Minor was good, but the Braves offense did not show up. They were having a brunch somewhere else while the rest of the team was trying to play a baseball game, and they lose 2-0 to Seattle. So, Mike, the Braves not showing a whole lot of punch against these Mariners right now. In fact, against American League teams, I think they've been pretty much punchless so far this year.
They really have. The good news is if you were at Turner Field the last couple of days, it's been very hot, and the Braves bats providing much air conditioning by striking out 22 times in a two-game series. 6 hits today, all of them singles. That's just indicative of how sometimes things go. I think the more painful loss was yesterday when you're up 4-0 and you blow the lead. Today you run into a guy who was an all-star last year in Iwakuma, who was out for the first month of the season with an injury, but you knew eventually he would get it back, and he was just on today. I think that one's an easier pill to swallow than yesterday's game where you just let them hang around and finally you let Seattle come from behind. So just got to watch this one out and take a day off, and then the Braves will hit the road at Arizona and at Colorado.
Early returns on La Stella look very promising, but what are we to wait about 2 more weeks till they get the book on him and see if they pitch him differently?
Well, that certainly is, that's the way things go in Major League Baseball. I've been talking about this kid for a while. I'm very high on La Stella. By the same token, he's not going to hit 400. I can feel pretty confident telling you that. Once guys start figuring out how to pitch him, he's going to have to make adjustments, and I think that'll be a story. But I think he is exactly what this team needs. He is a guy that puts the ball in play. He is a guy that gets on base. His defense needs a little bit of work. He's not going to hit for power, but he's for a lineup that, again, strikes out for my taste too much, and that's really kind of bit him in some key spots over the last 2 years in the postseason. I think this guy is the future. Certainly, Dan Uggla is the past. This guy is the future, and somewhere along the way, Romero Pena fits in as well.
All right, what about Mike Minor today? Again, good performance for him. He takes the loss, 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run. He strikes out 10. You couldn't ask anything more of him.
No, he was great. I mean, he was absolutely great, and really Mike Minor, for a guy that did not pitch at all in the first month of the season now, for the most part, he had 1 or 2 bumpy starts. He's been sharp. And Mike Minor is, which you can expect him to be, which is, to me, a guy that, I'm not going to call him an ace, but he's certainly a frontline starter that you can put, number 2, number 3 in your rotation, feel very good about it. So that's a good sign for him. I think that Mike Minor will have some of his best starts ahead of him as the season moves along and he continues to get into a groove. So Minor was the good news. The offense, obviously, the bad news.
Okay, Mike, thank you, man. Enjoy your time off tomorrow. Get a break from the Braves, and we will catch you on Friday.
Okay, look forward to it.
Well, we may catch you tomorrow night, but, I mean, as far as actual game is concerned, we might catch you just on Friday. As Mike hangs up in my face as I was trying to explain.
He's out.
He's not wasting any time getting to his off day. Braves Report brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals, and by Witt Suber of Home Shop Realty, where you pay less for more. Call 803-518-3888 today. Experience the home shop difference. Note here from the Tiger Insider, they've talked to Jack Leggett, and he said that his meeting today with Dan Radakovich was, quote, very productive. Radakovich also said the meeting was productive, according to Communications Director Joe Gelbreth. So it was productive.
Everything's productive.
It was productive. What does that mean, productive?
Was that on?
Nobody was throwing anything.
I don't know. It's like, apparently, I mean, I guess they're going to talk some more. Talks are ongoing.
I mean, how long does it I mean, you've got a Hall of Fame coach that's been there 21 years, has made the postseason 20 times, had a disappointing year, but, I mean, how long do you have to talk about it? It's pretty much straightforward. They didn't win as much as they wanted to this year. They've haven't been where they wanted to be the past few seasons. Jack Leggett is going to have to turn it around, and I think he will.
There could be some things, Radakovich may have some things that he wants Leggett to do. Maybe make some changes, maybe make some personnel changes. Jack may not want to. He may be agreeing to. I don't know. Maybe they're just going back and forth and hashing out some things.
Jack may need some things he wants administratively more in his office, or help him out with recruiting. Give me the keys to the team.
I would say it's pretty clear he's not going to fire Leggett.
No.
If he was going to do that, he would have done that already, I would think. Be right back.
Or would he? Ba-ba-ba-ba. The corn blue kiss. Thanks to Phil Kornblut. Don't mention that to 247 Sports. Who was the other receiver behind him? Quentin Smith. Oops. 4 stars down the drain yet again. Junior? Redshirt sophomore? $64. If you want to be real meanie, you could go back to the 2007 class where they had the #1 receiving class in the country in quotations and see how many of those guys panned out. I think it was like a big 0. Yeah. But Joe Hills and Mark Barnes and Jason Barnes ring a bell? A combined 30 catches there, maybe?
All right, busy second hour ahead here on Sports Talk. A lot of football talk, baseball talk as well. Play the Cash Whirlwind instant game for a chance to win up to $20,000 on only a $2 instant game. That, of course, from the South Carolina Education Lottery. Another USC football player departing. Lightly used wide receiver Jody Fuller, according to various reports, is transferring from USC. He's the latest to leave the Gamecock football program as they had to I hate to say get rid. They had to lose some players to make room on their roster. Right now, with his departure, by my count, I feel like I'm pretty close on this. I always feel like I'm pretty close. I've got them at 85 players, including right now 20 in the incoming class. Now, we do know in the incoming class, Dante Sawyer is already in junior college, so that would put them back at 20, and we know from following things that Dexter Weidman is still out there hanging, whether or not he's going to make it in or not. Jostin Thomas is the same way, and there's a couple of others, maybe Joe Blue. So anyway, the Gamecocks are at the 85 limit now that they could go back up to. They are finished with their NCAA limitations from Whitney Gate, so they're free of that. They can go back to 85, and this gets them back to 85. But Jody Fuller, as we recall, came back pretty highly recruited, highly touted player. Just didn't pan out for him at USC.
4-star guy, third highest rated guy in that class. Only guys that were ranked ahead of him were Mike Davis and Shaq Rowland. They have panned out, but we'll keep saying this over and over and over again because this is the time of the year when people really get caught up in recruiting rankings. I saw some people talking about where Clemson and USC are today. It was, trending on Twitter, at least our little portion of Twitter, and you just don't know until these guys get on the campus. People thought this Fuller kid was going to be a big-time playmaker at South Carolina, and it just didn't pan out. And, Coastal Carolina, he could go on to have a fine career there. You just don't know. You don't know until these guys step foot on campus and get into the program and see what they're going to do before you know how good they're going to be.
Yeah, the interesting thing is we have yet to see a receiver at South Carolina built like a running back, obviously going to explode. Now, you go back to Dion LaCorn, who had some moments, but he had injury problems as well, built more like a running back, but was a receiver. For whatever reason, those guys haven't panned out in Spurrier's system for whatever reason as far as that's concerned. But, yeah, I do think, Phil, also it's mental. Guys you don't expect too much from, they work hard, they improve. Other guys, if they don't do well at the top and they say, well, I was a 5-star, I ought to be doing better, then they get down on themselves.
You're exactly right. And, it's a case where South Carolina, they had to lose some players to get down to that 85 limit, and Spurrier made it clear he would be weeding some out, and that has been the case. Top of the hour break.
He is now mile race.
Stand by.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We are back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us here tonight, wherever you are tuned in around the state, wherever you are getting us over the airwaves, over one of our phenomenal affiliates around the state. Perhaps you're catching us over iHeartRadio, two of our affiliates there, WGVL in Greenville, WSEA in Myrtle Beach. Should you lose us over the airwaves, you can get us there on iHeartRadio or go to our website, sportstalksc.com. You can get the audio feed. You can also get the video feed there as well. Our phone number, 800-956-7266, and our email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter, it is at SportsTalkSC. Twitter has been hopping, buzzing, K-Mac, the last couple of days. What things have caught your attention via our Twitter audience?
Yeah, at Sports Talk SC, all sorts of things. Some people tweeting now about the Stephon Gilmore interview. Somebody told us to ask him about the time he had more rushing yards than C.J. Spiller head-to-head in a game. I don't remember that game. Was that when they put him in the Wildcat?
Must have been.
When Spiller ran back the opening kick, but then wasn't able to get back in the game because was he sick that year? Was that, or the turf toe?
Could have been.
He ran back the opening kick, or an early kick,
Mm-hmm.
and that was pretty much it for him. Grant enjoyed the interview with Langston Moore. It was a lot of fun. And what else do we have here?
Twitter has also taught you how to spell George Rogers' last name.
Well, I do know how to spell George. You know, the problem is I'm tweeting while we're trying to do things on the show, and yes, I put a D in his name inadvertently last night.
They come out of everywhere, don't they?
The slings and arrows that I took.
It's like the time last year at the Chapel Hill Regional when the Gamecocks lost that first game. I think it was, 6-5 or something, and I said it was 2-1. I put on Twitter. I don't know why I put 2-1. I just did.
Your brain doesn't always keep up.
By the time I came back upstairs, you'd have thought I'd have called out somebody's mama.
Yep.
I mean, they were coming at me from every angle.
People don't realize, how many things you're doing at once during a football game or a baseball game, and you're tweeting, and how easy it is. Sometimes you're on your phone.
They don't care about our problems.
I fat finger something. But anyway, it's always nice to know. I know a mistake will not go unnoticed, and it'll be quickly corrected by, one of our, 8,000 or 9,000 followers that we have now that'll be sure to point out very nicely, of course.
Of course.
Excuse me, kind sir. You seem to have misinformed people on the spelling of Mr. Rogers' last name.
G in Rogers.
It's just a G.
And we might as well make the announcement now here that we're available to come to your job, and as soon as you slip up, we'll be there to point your mistakes out.
All right, coming up after the break, Sammy Esposito, USC baseball recruiting coordinator. We're going to talk with him about the draft coming up beginning tomorrow, how it's going to impact the Gamecocks' incoming recruiting class, and we'll also talk some general Gamecock baseball with him as well. We'll do recruiting coming up a little bit later on, too. We will work in some phone calls also, and we'll be right back.
Don't forget about Jason Giambi, Rich Harden, Moeller. El Nino. I got him.
All right, back with you on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and the Professor Tom Hayes. The Major League Baseball draft coming up tomorrow. We're going to talk with Coach Sammy Esposito about that in just a moment. If you want more out of your education, well, Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. To find out more, make sure you visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. And we welcome in USC Assistant Baseball Coach, Recruiting Coordinator Sammy Esposito to Sports Talk. Coach, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Man, we're doing great. Appreciate you being with us, and I'm sure you're on the road recruiting since the season, unfortunately for you guys, is now over. But the draft is coming up tomorrow, so I thought it'd be interesting to kind of find out from you how your incoming recruiting class is going to hold up through the draft, how concerned you guys are about how hard you'll be hit.
Well, obviously, as tomorrow comes in the next couple of days, we'll find out exactly where that is. But we are worried about a few guys coming in, and we're keeping our fingers crossed as much as we can with them. And you know, we're hearing some good things on our end, and you know, you always hear a couple scary things on the other end, whether you're going to lose a guy or two. But a lot of rumors swirl, especially as this time of the year comes, and as tomorrow and the next couple of days unfold, you know, a lot of things will happen that whether you know or think or you're a little nervous about. So we'll find out here shortly.
Is there one guy, and I've got a list of about 5 or 6 guys on your signing class, is there one guy that stands out that you think is going to be a a real early pick and may be inclined to take the money?
Well, we have a couple that can go up there, that can slide up there pretty good. Madison Stokes, kid out of Columbia at AC Florida, he's kind of shot up some draft boards here as of late, and I know there's a couple teams that really like him. We just don't know how high up there, but he's a possibility of a guy who can wind up going up there pretty high. Another kid, Junior Harding, pitcher out of Maryland. He talked to him today. He's hearing some good numbers, so he might be another guy we're worried about that could go up there and we maybe wind up losing. But we're going to fight for those guys and hopefully we can find a way to get them on the campus.
So in your recruiting class that's coming in, your feeling is there's not that one guy or a couple of guys that are absolute locks to go on to pro baseball, that you've got a chance, you think, to maybe hold on to everybody?
No, I don't think we hold on to everybody just because, it's probably not going to happen. It never does. We don't have any of the, Nick Schufos of last year that are the automatic first rounders that we're just going to instantly lose. Like I said, with Stokes and Junior Harding, those two, they could go up there high enough, and there's a couple teams that like them enough that where if that spot comes up and that money comes up, then they wind up never making it to campus. We don't have any of those surefire first rounders this year that we, like Shufo last year, that we knew was an automatic we were going to lose. But we're kind of scared with a couple of them. Another kid, Hunter Taylor, a catcher out of Virginia. He's had an incredible spring, and he's kind of shot on the boards too. So if he can kind of go in those early rounds or mid part of the top 10, then we might have a chance of winding up losing him, which would be scary.
Does that put you guys as recruiters in an awkward situation when you sign a guy early in the early signing period, and he's a good player, really good player, and he's good enough to come and win in the SEC and help you guys go to the World Series, that kind of a player, maybe not all that highly touted as a pro prospect at that time. Do you kind of have to hope he doesn't blow up in the spring and have that super year, and all of a sudden here comes the major league money coming out of the sky?
Yeah, it is nerve-wracking, and you hate to say it, some guys you hope just have an okay spring, so they wind up on campus for you. It is scary and it is nervous, and you always try to plan, and I guess at the end of the day, if we're not recruiting those kind of guys that that have a chance to get drafted pretty good, then we're probably not drafting the right type or signing the right type of guys that are going to help us compete at a high level. So it is nerve-wracking, and you do hope the guys play well. You just hope they don't always play too well.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's a pitcher, he has a giant increase in velocity. You hope that happens when he gets on campus, and then you'll worry about him in a few years down the road. But it is something we're always worried about, and you're always, you're constantly trying to go see those guys as the spring goes, as just to try to find out where that jump is, if it's made already, and also just to let them know how important they are to you.
Visiting with Sammy Esposito from USC Baseball. Of your junior eligible players, which ones, and I guess we could pretty much sit here and say, Grayson Griner, he's going to sign, and Joey Pancake, and probably Joel Seddon and Montgomery, I guess. Am I right about those guys? What's your feeling on those top line junior eligible guys?
The feeling is they're all gonna sign. They're all gonna get drafted high enough to where they're gonna sign and begin their pro career. All those guys, along with Tanner English, you've mentioned, should all go within the top 10 rounds. And get sizable signing bonuses where they need to, continue, go on and go through their pro career. But that kind of going in and knowing ever since that class made it to campus, those guys we're all just going to be, 3-year type guys, knowing, and if something happens and one of them wants to come back for their senior year, they'd be welcome to come back with open arms.
Yeah. What about Cody Mincy?
Cody Mincy, all indications are he's coming back. I don't think he's going to get drafted high enough to where we have a fear of losing him. There's always that outside chance. All it takes is one team to really like somebody, and that's all it takes. But the good thing for us with Cody Mincy is he's not the tallest person out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you gave Cody 2 or 3 more inches, then we might wind up losing him on his height. But luckily for us, and I guess unluckily for Cody, he's a little bit shorter than what a lot of guys like in that department. But I guess there's an outside chance. I know a couple teams have talked with him, but indications show that he should be back in a Gamecock uniform.
I know you're not Jerry Myers, but does Cody stand to be, if he comes back, does he stand to inherit that closer's role, assuming that Seddon goes ahead and signs?
It looks like it would work that way. He's had experience at it at the junior college level. He's been at the back end of all of our games this year, and even closing out a couple. So it would seem like that would be the thing where he would slide into that closer's role and see how he takes off with it. But that's kind of looks how it would shape up, and that's kind of what happened a couple years ago with Tyler Webb, being that setup role for Matt Price, and then kind of took over. So you would assume that's how that would happen, and obviously we'd have to let everything play out over the year or over the spring and the fall and the spring, but that's kind of how it looks like to shape up.
All right, we'll have Coach Holbrook on with us next week to kind of wrap up the season. But from your meeting with the coaches and the players before you got on the road, what did you take from the attitude of everybody about the way this season ended and how you guys will try to avoid that for next year?
Well, it was obviously a very disappointing way to end the year. You always want to play as long as you can possibly play, and losing at home in a regional, you're lucky enough and you're glad enough and you're happy enough, you won enough games that you're able to host a regional and get in the postseason, because it's hard enough to do that. But then to lose at home, that's never a good feeling, and no one's ever happy about losing or losing at home in general. So, we're going to go back to work. We got, guys are getting ready to head off and go off to summer ball, and those guys need to keep getting better, and we'll need to keep working and bringing in good players. And when school starts, those guys that come back that are ready to go, we'll start from scratch in the fall and work and try to get better at some things that maybe we need to get better at from this year. And
all right, Sammy, hey, we got to jump into a break. We appreciate it, and we'll be right back.
Stand by.
And we thank once again Sammy Esposito for being with us. So again, Madison Stokes, Alex Destino, left-handed pitcher, Brandon Murray, right-hander, Hunter Taylor, catcher, and Junior Harding, right-hander. Those are the ones out of the USC class to keep an eye on for the draft. From Clemson, probably want to keep an eye on Michael Chavis, an infielder, Austin DeCarr, a right-hander, Charlie Barnes, a left-hander, Drew Wharton, an outfielder, Paul Campbell, a right-hander, and K.J. Bryant, the outfielder from Wade Hampton, as the Tiger signees who will likely be picked up in the draft, and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, let's hit the phones, and we go to John in Greenville. John, good evening, sir, and welcome into Sports Talk.
Good evening, guys. I just got two questions for y'all, then I'll hang up and listen to y'all answer. I want to know how is Deshaun Watson's injury coming along with Clemson, and do you think there's any possibility that Deshaun will be the number one man before the year is over?
Wow. The injury's coming along fine. He's progressing on schedule. He's had no setbacks that we're aware of, so I think you can expect him to be ready to go by August. As far as will he be he's going to start out number 2, and one of two things will have to happen for him to become number 1. Number 1 is that Cole Stout will have to get hurt. Number 2, he'd have to play poorly, and Clemson would have to lose for him to move up. If they're winning and Stout's playing well, then I think he'll stay at number 2.
If he is playing, that's not a good thing for Clemson. Anytime a freshman is thrust into action as a quarterback, it means mistakes were made somewhere along the line, whether it's the mistakes of Chad Kelly or recruiting. But
who, by the way, visited Alabama yesterday.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin. They would be a
meant
great,
for each other, weren't they?
Great tandem right there. But I think what you want with Watson is to be able to ease him in there this season, have some plays out there for him where he's comfortable, a package or two where he can go out there and make some plays and give a different wrinkle. But I don't think you want to have him go out and try to win football games for you as a freshman.
No.
If that happens, it probably means, like Corn said, things have spiraled, and you go, look, we're going to start playing for the future is now, and he's going to take some lumps, and we'll take some lumps, but we're going to have a better quarterback next year. But as we know in this day and age, if you lose a game at Clemson or anywhere, they're ready to fire you after.
I think it's never a good idea to play a true freshman quarterback. He may have the talent, but on the other hand, if he has a bad experience in those times when he's thrust into the spotlight, he may never recover mentally. And people think, well, he's a strong quarterback. He's strong mentally. No, I've seen some strong guys get thrust into the spotlight before they're ready, and it really sets them back. So I think the best thing is to even with the talent that you saw out of Jameis Winston, they redshirted him. There's no way we're going to put him on the field as a true freshman. Redshirt freshman, fine. He's grown into his body. He's ready to go. But a true freshman, I don't think it's ever a good idea to play him.
All right, man. Thanks for your phone call. We appreciate it very much, and we'll come back and take more calls. 800-956-7266. That's our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. We've got some email we can get to as well. We'll continue to check out the Twitter feed, too. More Sports Talk coming up.
San Fran just gave the least important person of their offense a whole bunch of more than Seen my Heisman? Stand by, please.
And we've got time and room for more of your phone calls. If you'd like to join us here on Sports Talk, give us a holler. 800-956-7266 is how you can reach us. You can also email us as well. Email address is talkback@sportstalksc.com. Let's take a look at some email at sportstalksc.com, talkback@sportstalksc.com. A lot of email about the Jack Leggett story at Clemson. Matthew writes, Ray Tanner certainly did set the bar high for Gamecock baseball. To fire a Hall of Fame coach like Leggett would be very short-sighted on Clemson's part. It'll indeed be very interesting to see how Gamecock fans react if Holbrook doesn't make it back to Omaha in the next 2 to 3 years. Well, again, I think that anytime South Carolina or Clemson does not make it to Omaha with where their programs are, it is a disappointment. But there's no reason to chop off anybody's head because they don't make it to Omaha. It's not easy. It hasn't been easy in recent years, and it's not going to get any easier. The job that these guys face is difficult. I mean, where is it written that automatically South Carolina and Clemson show up in February to start the season and they're going to end in Omaha? It's not granted to you. You have to go out and earn it, and you have to play exceptional baseball all the way through, and sometimes it's not going to happen, and right now that's the case with both of these teams. It's weird. It's certainly weird for us not to not be talking super regional for USC or Clemson. We still have College of Charleston, and we'll do more on that, but it certainly is strange to start the summer vacation this early. Actually, it's kind of a, personally speaking, kind of a nice change to have a little more extra time, but then again, I'd be just as happy if South Carolina or Clemson had made it into the super regional, and we were getting ready for that coming up this weekend. But again, nothing is automatic, and you can't fire the coach every time you don't reach the ultimate point. And why some baseball people in this state feel like Jack Leggett or Chad Holbrook, and it's just starting to brew there, why you would even have that thought about their job security because they simply didn't make a super regional this year or didn't make it to Omaha last year is ludicrous. So be a little more patient.
I think it's the remote syndrome. You know, I don't like this program here. Let's channel surf. Let's see. This coach didn't do a good job. Let's put this guy in. Let's see what he can do. I think the fantasy thing gets involved in there too, and it doesn't work. And Phil, if anything, the fans should look at this year and how many teams that, in our minds, came out of nowhere and are now on the doorstep of Omaha. That tells you how dangerous it is now in college baseball. Anybody can jump up and bite you.
All I have to see, too, and you make a good point, but also all I have to see, too, is South Carolina, Miami, Florida, and Florida State lost regionals at home. These are four of the established powers in college baseball, and they all lost. They all have terrific programs and terrific coaches. So, Florida fans, they want to fire O'Sullivan. Miami fans want to fire Jim Morris. I mean, come on, give us all a break.
I mean, and how many national seats went down? About half of them.
Yeah.
Didn't even go to the Super
including the
Regionals.
top two, Oregon State and Florida.
All right, here's an email from Sir Charles V. Terrible, just terrible. Spelled Turrible. Terrible, just terrible. He's referring to the commentary, could the magic in those hills turn tragic for Leggett? The only thing magic in them thar hills is the way things disappear under the orange rug. The Clemson propaganda machine makes Baghdad J. Carney look like Mr. Knows It. If they force Coach Jack to resign, they might hire the Bat Boy, much like Coach Sweeney being promoted from wide receiver coach and that little fellow from the football office taking over for Petey. Ice cream vendors and Gamecock fans are hoping he stays. Don't get the ice cream vendor part. Explain that one to me, K-Mac.
I don't either. I saw that, and I didn't get it.
Yeah. Our buddy Alan Smothers, award-winning sportscaster from down along the coast, he writes, agree 100%. How about some respect for a man that has won over 1,000 games, most of them with the Tigers, 20 out of 21 NCAA tournament appearances, 9 Super Regionals, 6 CWS trips, and is in the College Baseball Hall of Fame. Jeez.
I mean, what I don't understand, and you touched on this in your piece earlier this week, Clemson, they really promote this solid orange, all-in, family, and, what isn't the epitome of that when a guy's down, when the stakes are low, you rally and you get behind your guy and you say, what, we believe in this guy, and we'll be back. What do we have to do to get back? Instead, it's like, let's string this guy up and get him out of here and get somebody else in. Next, the flavor of the month. Who are you going to bring in? You fire a Hall of Fame coach, who are you going to bring in? And I'm not trying to act like Jack Leggett is perfect. There isn't anybody that's perfect. And has the program slipped? Yes, but it slipped for the sample size to me still isn't big enough to where you go, there's major problems there. We're talking about 4 years ago they were in Omaha. They haven't missed a postseason in this stretch. They've had some disappointing seasons where they haven't put it all together. It's tough to do it in baseball sometime, and we know that the game has changed now in terms of the parity. But I think it just makes things are changing up there in those hills. It's a different athletic department. There's a different aroma, I guess. It's just a different feel at Clemson. It really did. I had that family feel before. You kind of got that sense, and they were kind of the. They had a special thing. That's what made them different. But now I think they've made the decision, and maybe it'll work. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing, but maybe they're saying, you know what, to compete now with the big boys, this is what we have to do. This is what we have to do. We can't play that all shucks.
Well, it's a real shame, and I hear what you're saying. You're exactly right. And it's a real shame what's happening with Jack Leggett right now. I mean, this is sort of like he's being treated like a major league manager. In that there's all this whispering and all this conjecture about his future, and now he's had the meeting with the ownership, which is Dan Radakovich, and nobody has come out and said he's going to be back. Nobody's come out and said he's not going to be back. We're still left sitting here to conjecture, as all fans are and all media are, and it would seem to me that someone could step up very quickly here after they had their meeting today and say, Jack Leggett's not going anywhere. He's our coach. He's got 2 years left on his contract, or I'm extending him for a year, or I'm not extending him for a year, but he's got 2 years left on the contract. And I'm satisfied that our meeting was very productive, and he's getting some things done, and we're going to have a much improved year next year. So
before the draft, and wouldn't before the major league draft, when you have some of these guys dangling, you read the list of those guys, that could be a factor. Well, I'm going to go ahead and sign. Jack might not even be there. Or if you're Jack Leggett and you're sitting in somebody's living room, or you're out watching a Legion baseball game or a high school state championship, wherever you are recruiting guys, and they're going, well, your AD isn't exactly acting like you're going to be back. He's going to have to answer these questions on the recruiting trail, so that's unfair for him.
Well, if a guy has a proven track record and even in recently he's proven it. Think about what happens if you even get rid of a person. It's like tearing up a railroad track, because the contacts he's developed in his recruiting over 20 years, gone. The cachet he has with players he has in the majors and in the coaching profession in high school, college, gone. Where do you turn? Because now you've ripped up a whole field of influence that no longer is at your disposal. That's one of the things you do. And that is a frightening thought, in my opinion, because now you got to bring in a guy who has to reestablish everything from the ground up. That's what happened.
All right, let's jump back to the phone calls. We go to, we got a break coming up. I'm sorry. We'll hit the phones again in a moment. We'll also do recruiting in a moment as well. And we'll hit this break on Sports Talk, and we'll be back. Don't go away.
On the court, Little Chris's signature alley-oop-de-doop drew the assisted neighborhood short. Player. Nigeria. Cheyenne Frontier Day. State Farm Branch. The Pauls knew a little assist goes a long way, no matter who it comes from.
So the Oakland A's, it's been all about the pitching. In 2013, they were second in the AL in starters ERA, led by that group right there. But here are the changes. Griffin, Parker on the DL, Colon departs, Dan Straley to the minors, and so this group takes over. Chavez, Pomerantz, Sonny Gray now in his first full season. It's got Kazmir signed as a free agent, and oh, by the way, they only lead the American League in starters ERA. Amazing that they sustained those injuries, and here they are pitching the way they have.
Yeah, there's a lot of rotations with bigger names and bigger salaries, but there's none with lower ERAs this year. And I thought it was real interesting when Pedro interviewed Bob Melvin before the game. He talked about Billy Beane knowing that you're going to have injuries, you're going to lose starters, how he's provided that depth.
Yeah, I think the scary thing, or the thing that concerned him, is you're not used to having to tap into that depth in March. You figure you're usually going to have to do it in June, July, August. McCann reaching out, smacking it to left. Let's go downstairs and bring in Pedro Gomez.
Well, and one of the reasons I'm told that the A's pitching staff is so good is Curt Young. Now, Curt Young's pitching coach for 5.5 years during the middle of his career was Dave Duncan. And I'm told that he just applied everything he could from Duncan. And there's a lot of Dave Duncan in Curt Young's teachings. And let's face it, guys, over the last 25 years, Dave Duncan's arguably the best pitching coach in the majors.
I totally agree. And right along with that, Pedro, I feel like Dave Duncan should be the first coach inducted into the Hall of Fame because of all of the great things he has done for the game of baseball.
One of the things with that Dave Duncan philosophy, he's a big believer in the two-seam fastball, in the sinker, keeping the ball down and
staying away from slugging percentages. Exactly. But I tell you what, they can talk about Moneyball and they can talk about shifts and lineups and everything. But to me, the key to open success is they find starting pitchers with command of the fastball.
Bounce at first, blanks.
If you command that fastball and have decent secondary pitches, that's fine. But by commanding that fastball, that's where Curt Young is so outstanding. If he gets that guy, he can set the defense up accordingly. And when you watch this infield, it was unbelievable. I was sitting up in the upper deck last night just to get a feel for it. It's unbelievable how they anticipate the ball, every pitch being hit at them, because they know that's what is designed by Curt Young.
Two down now, and here is the veteran second baseman, Brian Roberts.
That glove never moved. That glove never moved.
Chavez hitting his spots.
All right, stand by.
Information. Information. Information.
Just another thought on Jack Leggett, then we'll do recruiting, and that is, I use Tennessee a lot as an example of what happens when you fire long-standing, successful coaches who slip a little bit, and you make a change thinking that you can bring in somebody and do better. We've seen what's happened with Tennessee football in particular. I think that's a great example. Since they fired Philip Fulmer, they have just been wandering through the wasteland of mediocre to poor college football teams. Now, they might be back on the way up with Bush Jones, but we don't know enough yet. Their baseball program was outstanding for so many years under Rod Delmonico. He was the coach there for 19 years. He won over 700 games. He took them to the College World Series 3 times during that time. Now, his last 2 years, they didn't make the NCAA tournament at all, and he was fired. And since then, they haven't made the NCAA tournament. And they're on their second coach since they fired him. So, the point is maybe 2 years, you miss it 1 year, they give you another year to get into the tournament. Maybe their thinking is that's enough. Maybe you should give them a little bit longer to straighten it out if it starts to go south a little bit. But I think in today's sports world, whether it's the NFL, any professional sports league, and now certainly in college, with everything being so hyped up and so much money riding on practically everything, they don't give you much time to fix something if it starts to slip away from you, which is probably not a good approach. I think you end up spending more money and losing money by trying to fix a problem that maybe doesn't really need fixing than if you just left it alone and let the guy who built it up do the repair job.
Yeah, money is one key thing that money does not buy. Money does not buy time, and it doesn't buy patience. But lack of patience can make you lose a lot of money. And so if you react because you're afraid you're going to lose money on the front end, maybe ticket sales go down a little bit, a knee-jerk reaction can make sure that a whole bunch of money go down a rat hole if you make the wrong decision.
All right, to recruiting now, where Clemson today picked up commitment number 18, Cleland Farrell, 6'5", 220, out of Richmond, Virginia, the second defensive end to commit to the Tigers. They're losing, of course, 3 defensive ends from this coming season, so they have to replenish that area of their team, and they're doing a nice job of that. LaSamuel Davis committed on Saturday. Now they get Cleland Farrell. He visited Clemson for the spring game, really liked the atmosphere when he was there. He likes the coaches, Venables, Hobby, Sweeney, and he's been talking a lot to those guys. And so he saw a lot of things that he liked at Clemson. Says he's known for about a month that it was going to be Clemson, and he decided why wait, go ahead and make the announcement now. He actually came down to Clemson, South Carolina, and Virginia Tech for him. Might the Tigers be in position to get another commitment next week? Defensive back Maurice Smitherman of Mobile is going to announce his commitment on Wednesday or Thursday. It's down to Clemson and Mississippi State. He told us last night that they're pretty even right now, and he says he and his mom are talking about it. He was at Clemson for the final home game last season, and he was impressed by everything that he saw there, and he has been told by Clemson that they need corners, they need shutdown corners, and they need help in the return game, so he sees a chance to play right away. The number one thing with Smitherman is the chance to walk right in and have a chance to play right away. He understands that you have to work for it. It's not going to be given to you. He just wants to have that opportunity. As far as the SEC and ACC thing, he said his family wants him to play in the SEC, but he said he feels like he can go anywhere and make an impact, And he pointed out that Florida State beat an SEC team in the national championship game last year. He'll put his decision on Twitter next week when he's ready to announce it. Offensive lineman Brandon Sandifer from Marietta, Georgia, visited Alabama today. He's pretty much an Alabama-South Carolina battle for him, and he was at Alabama today. Didn't make a commitment or anything. In basketball, 6'6" Tevin Mack from Dreer made a visit to Clemson on Saturday, and the Tigers offered him, becoming the first of the major in-state schools to do so. He said the visit went pretty good. Talked to the coaches a little bit more, some of the players and the strength coach. He said they've got a nice campus and an up-and-coming program. And he said they like him because he can score the ball really well. And he's been looking for Clemson and South Carolina to make him that offer. He's visited USC, but the Gamecocks haven't offered yet. The offer does not automatically put Clemson in the driver's seat. He says it gives him another option to see where he fits in, but he's not going to rush anything right now. He did talk to USC assistant coach Matt Figures last night, and they want him to come back for a visit. He'll do that, but probably not this month. He has no other visits planned right now. And former Tiger Adonis Filer is headed to Florida Atlantic.
Stand by.
Hey, coming up tomorrow here on Sports Talk, USC defensive coordinator Lorenzo Lord will join us. He'll be with us 6:15, I think, tomorrow night, early in the program. Look forward to having him with us as we talk some Gamecock football. Want more out of your education? Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. To find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. K-Mac, the SIDs around the SEC feeling pretty high on the Gamecocks right now.
Well, yes and no.
Well, they picked them to play in the championship
Well,
game.
they did pick them to play in the championship game. Yeah, these are the individual awards. That was the team awards.
Right.
The SIDs doing their individual awards. Most valuable player in the SEC. 2 guys get picked, 1 and 2. Nick Marshall was 1, and Todd Gurley was number 2. Top Heisman candidate, same 2 guys, Nick Marshall and Todd Gurley. Most versatile player, Christian Jones and Malcolm Mitchell. Jones with Alabama, Mitchell with Georgia. Most underrated, USC offensive lineman A.J. Cann.
Mm-hmm.
Next was Dak Prescott of Mississippi State. Best athlete, Nick Marshall. Next was kick returner and wide receiver, Christian Jones of Alabama. Best leader, Rameek Wilson from Georgia. Best outside linebacker, Alvin Dupree out of Kentucky. Best inside linebacker, Rameek Wilson. Best defensive lineman, Dante Fowler from Florida. Best cornerback, Florida's Vernon Hargraves, the third. Best safety, Alabama's Landon Collins. Best offensive lineman, Jarvis Harrison. Best receiver, Amari Cooper. Best runner, Todd Gurley. Next was Mike Davis. And best blocking back was Jalston Fowler from Alabama, and then Mike Davis was second. The best passer, Matty Mock, Missouri. Next was Nick Marshall. Oh, Nick Marshall?
Nick Marshall?
I was never really impressed with Nick Marshall as a passer. Best kick returner, Christian Jones from Alabama. Best place kicker, Marshall Morgan. Best punter, Drew Kasser from Texas A&M. So there you go, the SID awards.
Interesting.
Very good. Very
good. Auburn must set the record for most all SEC quarterbacks kicked off of other teams. Cam Newton, Nick Marshall.
They've done well.
Yes.
The reclamation projects, they've done well. Wonder, and you would think, Chad Kelly looked at Alabama, but you would have to think he would take a look at Auburn because Malzahn's offense is what he was running at Clemson, and you would think that that would be a natural transition for him when it comes down to him deciding where he wants to go. All right, Stanley Cup Finals begins tonight. I don't know. I kind of like the Rangers. How about you, Kevin?
Okay.
I'll go with the Kings.
Pro?
I'll go with the Kings. I'll be a person. I'll go to the left coast.
NBA playoffs tomorrow night. I'm going to go with the Spurs. Just in my heart of hearts, I'm going with the Spurs. K-Mac?
I'm going with the Spurs, too, for the same reasons. I want the old guys to win.
Pro?
Three-peat.
Same reason why I pull for Corn.
That's good enough. Have yourselves a great night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.